This is actually an argument that I read, and at first glance I thought, oh, this makes sense. The premises are pretty strong, right? An undergraduate degree is necessary for an appointment to the executive board. If it's necessary, what does that mean?
You must have it.
Must have it. So if you don't have it,
Then
you're not getting on the board. Sound good? Then it says, no one with a felony conviction can be appointed to the board. That makes sense. Again, if you have a felony, you can't be on the board. If you don't have a degree, you can't be on the board. There's no like usually or most or often, right? This is straight up definitive. Thus, Murray, an accountant with both a bachelor's and a master's degree, great, he's met one of the requirements, cannot be accepted for the position of executive administrator since he has a felony conviction. My first kind of quick run through, I was like, not that I should be moving that quickly, but I was like, felony conviction, can't be on the board. And then I was like, wait, that's where I got nervous because like this argument sounds legit. You look back at the conclusion, it's like, wait, executive administrator? What do you have to assume about the executive administrator?
They're on the executive board.
That they're on the board. They never say that. So unless they're on the board, then, yeah.
Isn't there an issue with appointed versus accepted as well?
Cannot be appointed or cannot be accepted for the position of executive administrator. Appointment to the executive board. So sure, yeah. I mean, I think it's a smaller assumption, but it still technically is one. If you're accepted to that position and it's on the board,
Not necessarily.
were you, maybe you got there through acceptance but not appointment? Yeah, maybe. Yeah. These are problems. Excellent. So notice all these arguments have little holes, right? But sometimes as we're reading through them, we feel like they're fine. And we got to dig in, especially in this type of question. What type of question is this? Sufficient assumption. So we're looking for an answer that's going to prove the conclusion. There's got to be a gap. There tends to only be one. Answer choice A. I felt like this was almost restating a premise. It introduces master's degree, but at the end of the day, it's still just telling us what we kind of already knew. So, wrong. Answer choice B. By the way, do we expect the correct answer to be strong or weak? Strong. We're trying to prove the conclusion, so the stronger the better. Only candidates eligible for appointment to the executive board can be accepted for the position of executive administrator. Nick, this takes care of both of our concerns, right? It talks about the appointment and accepted aspect, and it's saying, look, only means what?
Every.
There are no exceptions, right? But specifically only is introducing the necessary condition, right? The requirement. So only candidates eligible for appointment to the executive board can be accepted. In other words, if you're not one of these people, if you're not eligible to be appointed to the board, then you cannot be accepted for the position of executive administrator. That's just a contrapositive. Right? Only introduces the necessary condition, so I'm negating that and then negating the other thing. You guys okay with that? Anyone confused by that? We're okay? Okay. So this is the correct answer. Now, I would keep going because we do got to read all 5 answer choices. Answer choice C, an undergraduate degree is not necessary. This weakens the argument, if anything. Answer choice D, does anyone know why this is wrong? Was anyone tempted by this?
Oh, I was answering last.
But why is it wrong?
It's assuming that just because he doesn't have a felony conviction means that he's automatically appointed as executive administrator.
Wait, he does have a felony conviction.
It's saying if he did not have a felony conviction, he would be accepted for the position of executive administrator.
That's right.
So it's saying that if that felony conviction wasn't there, then that my understanding of it, right, was that if he didn't have that felony conviction, his appointment would be automatic.
Mm-hmm.
And
So why does it make it wrong?
I'm assuming that he would have been appointed, that there weren't other candidates that were better than him or whatever.
I think you're almost treating this as like a must be true question. Like, does this have to be true? And no, it doesn't have to be true. Claire?
It might be wrong, so I'm behind on this section, but is it flipping necessary and sufficient?
Yes. This is a false contrapositive. Take a look at this. If no felony conviction, then what? Then accepted, right? Contrapositive? If not accepted, then felony conviction. If you were at all tempted by this answer, it's because you were thinking that this is flipped around, right? Because if it were flipped around, if it were if F, then not A, then it would be a great answer. So it's really close to a great answer, but it's a false contrapositive. So it's a horrible answer. Sound good? Okay, answer choice E. Great. I'm glad that it's relevant. But how is it relevant? Does it make it so that they should be appointed or not appointed? Or accepted or not accepted? Are we cool with this? Nick?
In sufficient assumption questions,
Yeah.
do you have an answer that puts the conclusion in the sufficient condition?
Yep.
Does that mean the answer is wrong?
Yes.
Okay.
I hardly ever say yes because, you know, it's such a strong word.
Wait,
It means always.
what was the question?
What was the question? If you're in a sufficient assumption question, and this is also true for strengthening questions, by the way, and the correct, or not the correct answer, but an answer says if conclusion, that answer is wrong. Because we need to go from the premises to the conclusion. We need to go from the fact that this person has a felony to the conclusion that they won't be accepted, not from the conclusion that they won't be accepted back to the premises. Right? Because on the LSAT, what do you have to accept as true? Premises. The conclusion is what we're trying to prove. And so this would be a great answer. Hey, if he has a felony, then he should not be accepted. And we're like, does he have a felony? Yes, he has a felony. Therefore, if I add this to the argument, now the conclusion has to be true, because this is saying that the conclusion would be true, assuming that if clause is triggered. But this is like flipped around. It's like, well, if the conclusion is true, then one of the premises is true. You're like, well, great, but that's what we don't know. We don't know whether the conclusion is true or not, and that's what we're trying to prove. So as soon as you put that if right in front of the conclusion, you have a problem. One thing you have to be careful of, though, is sometimes they can put the conclusion content into the if clause, but it will be negated, right? Like, if they said to us, if accepted, then no felony, we can't be like, oh, the if clause is talking about the conclusion, so this is wrong. No, the if clause is actually talking about the opposite of the conclusion. Therefore, the contrapositive would put the conclusion exactly how it should be in the then clause. Are we okay with that? Okay.
Could you explain that one more time?
Sure.
Okay.
The last part, or?
Yeah, just last word.
Yeah. So, bottom line here is if it says if and then the conclusion in a sufficient assumption question, the answer is wrong. If it says if and then the opposite of the conclusion,
Contrapositive.
essentially, setting it up to possibly be a contrapositive of what we're looking for, then that's fine. So this here would be the opposite of the conclusion, because the conclusion was he should not be accepted for the position of executive administrator, right? And so if we said he should be accepted, if he should be accepted, then he doesn't have a felony, we'd be like, oh, we should keep reading this answer choice because it might end up being the contrapositive of what we're looking for. Yeah. But if I started reading an answer choice and it started like this, I would stop reading it. I wouldn't read the then clause. It's like pointless. You're trying to prove the conclusion. It's like, well, if the conclusion is true, I'm like, if. That's what we want to know. All right. Any other questions on that one? Okay. Let's go ahead.